You need to examine your body, and particularly the emotional centers, heart and solar plexus, where the root emotions or underlying emotional negative issues are held. Root emotion is a combination of energy, emotion, and underlying thought that is deeply buried in the unconscious. And in order to access it, you need to link it with the conscious. For instance, if you feel tensions in your solar plexus and you go there trying to fully experience it, there's a big possibility that nothing will actually change. So you need to link with what you experience as an energetic discomfort, a certain emotional discomfort. You need to link that with the conscious. And because it is never entirely unconscious, it is closer to the subconscious. So there is always a subtle link with the conscious mind already present. You just need to find that link. So when you go to your solar plexus, for instance, trying to decipher what it is that I'm experiencing. Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it control connected to fear? Is it guilt, shame? You don't really know, because there's no consciousness in the solar plexus. So you need to link that unpleasant feeling in your solar plexus with your personality, with your mind. And you do it by deciphering in your mind the subtle reverberation of that unpleasant feeling in your personality, in your person. This is what I said before, that there's already a knowing, but that knowing has to be accessed. You already know, basically. You already have a sense what it is. You are just not looking carefully enough, or you refuse to look, or you refuse to acknowledge that there is this underlying psychological issue in your mind, connected to it. You don't have to be exact. You have to be approximate. So, of course, sometimes you can find exact issues, but often it is not a case. And certain issues, they go together. They mix together. And because of that, you are experiencing them together and you are confronting them as one issue. It's not that you have to identify or can always identify a clear issue in your mind that is corresponding to what you experience in your emotional centers. But as I said, you identify certain subtle reverberation in your mind that corresponds to the emotion locked in your solar plexus or your heart. And then because you have identified in that way, you create the link between the conscious and the unconscious. And then when you go to that root emotion, because it is already connected to the conscious, now you can dissolve it. For instance, you experience something in your solar plexus, deeply unpleasant, and you try to feel what is it connected to. Fear, for instance. And what is the way to deal with fear? Self-protection, self-defense, self-denial, or denial in general. You can be afraid of many things, what other people think of you, for instance, because your self-image is being threatened, and the only way you can love yourself normally is if you are able to preserve positive self-image of yourself, meaning that you think you are deserving, you deserve loving yourself. So if your image is threatened, there's this doubt whether you deserve loving yourself, whether you are good enough. So there are many psychological strategies where you are trying to preserve that positive self-image, such as turning the blame toward others, or trying to prove it's a constant person. To feel good about himself. Yes, I am okay. I did nothing wrong. But that thought is often being threatened by judgment from others, one, by not being accepted by others, or internally, because there's also the inner judge within the person who does not need even external agency. He is just criticizing himself irrespectively of that. It is that sense of unworthiness, external blame, being internalized. In that sense, the person is always on guard in this respect. Well, most of the time. So in the solar plexus, indeed, you can feel raw, primal fear, but you can also feel different layers of psychological fears. And what you feel additionally is that self-defensiveness, because being the center of power center is where you defend yourself against all enemies. This is why solar plexus becomes contracted, because it is in that state of tension. Because concentrating in the solar plexus is a substitute of having control and power. So there's a fear and self-protection, self-defensiveness in the solar plexus. Very common, in a way, Everyone has it. So when you link that discomfort in your solar plexus, the sense of contraction and unpleasantness, to that understanding that it is actually about self-protection, that it is fear and self-protection combined. So then when you go into the solar plexus and go deeply into that root emotion, to the very bottom of it, like now you can try. Breathe to it, merge with it. And you need to stay there until nothing is left. It is deep, very deep. So give yourself some time. You are dissolving the part of yourself which is actually terrified. Remember, feeling it is not enough. You need to enter inside of it, merge with it. You need to become it. Only then you experience it fully. It may even help to absorb yourself in it while exhaling. Because you need to actually reach absorption in that root emotion, or in the energetic state of that emotion. And you need to be really conscious inside of that. and then suddenly you feel it is gone. And you can breathe more freely. And then you may want to examine it further, your solar plexus. Is there still something left? Perhaps something more subtle? And you need to identify what it is. When we say listening to the inner voice, it means listening to the part of you that already knows. Because there's no one is talking to you other than you are listening to the deeper part of you, or the part of you which is deeper than your conscious mind, that knows. The place you want to come to is that your solar plexus is entirely open and free, empty. Or transparent. And then it will become the actual power center. Before, it was, when it lived in fear, it was a center of powerlessness. Because fear and self-protection, or living in self-protection, living in that self-defense mode, is a clear admission that I have no power. In a similar way, the person, or the ego, is so desperate to maintain positive self-image and is constantly defending itself from others and from itself, is because it has no power. It is powerless. Ego too has to find its power. Well, it transcends the reliance on positive self-image, which is the substitute for self-love, a substitute for being real and authentic. You still have self-reflection, but you don't have self-image. Self-reflection replaces the function of self-image. Self-image is where you dwell upon a thought, where you see yourself good or bad, worthy, unworthy, and so on and so on. Where you define who you are through image of yourself. You become the image rather than being who you truly are.